director here, and this is our, 10th season, no, how many seasons have we been doing those? Lots, and this is our third lecture for the season. We do it from November through March, so we've got 2 more coming up. The next one is February 13th, and it'll be on the Condor Reintroduction Program, and that's just going to be an update for where we're at, and there should be some really great news. We've got a Conservation Advisory Committee at the zoo, and we are lucky enough to raise funds from various sources. A quarter of our zoo admission goes to our conservation fund, and $1 from every membership goes to the fund. And then random ways like this, and we pool all that money and we disperse it every year for conservation grants. And we're actually soliciting grants right now. The deadline is January 31st. And so if you know of anybody, or you yourself are needing funds to do field conservation work, either locally or abroad, we're soliciting applications, and you can find all that information on our website. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Papa and Barkley, and if they're in the room here, I'm not sure if we got Papa. You want to just stand up and we'll say thank you. Introduction of Jeff Black. He is our speaker today, and he is a wildlife professor at Humboldt State University. He's on sabbatical right now, though, right?
For another couple days.
No, it's almost over. But he's been with HSU for 20 years, and he teaches wildlife management and conservation, and we're delighted to have him here and give Jeff Black a welcome.
Well, thanks very much, everyone, for coming out on a rainy day, rainy evening. I don't think the otters mind the rain. Although, having said that, the waters do get muddy, don't they, for the first couple of days after it rains. And then they're challenged for that week or so after the first rains of the season. But right now, the water's clearing, and they're doing just fine, I should think. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story. And it happens to be a very fun story because it's a story of celebration. It's a story that we still have otters in the North Coast. Wild otters in the North Coast. That is not the case in very many places on planet Earth. We live in a special place, so we can celebrate. So this is a lecture of celebration. All right, here we go. So, jump straight in. There are 13 species of otters in the world. Different species of otters in the world. And this list up top indicates how threatened they are. Here's extinct. Here's least concern. And every one of the 13, except for one, is to some degree of being threatened along this list. This NT stands for near threatened. This is vulnerable, this is endangered, this is critically endangered, this is extinct in the wild. So if you look across this chart, there's only one LC, least concern. And that means it's not even of worry to the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, who keeps tabs on all the populations of otters in the world. Often, or usually, we think of this critter when we speak of otters. When I say, oh, I study otters, someone will say in their mind, oh, aren't they so cute? Yeah, they're so cute. They have round faces with big googly eyes and tiny noses. And they float on their back. And they hold their young on their chest. And they crack the urchins and so on. And they just float, on their back all day. But the study around here is on a different species of otter. Now, when I say I study otters, then I'm going to tell you about this story about the North Coast otters. This is the species I'm talking about. Here it comes. Ready? Oh, it's very different. It's very different. It's got a big blockhead. Big blockhead. Tiny little eyes. Or tiny little, ears. And big eyes. And huge long whiskers. This is the river otter that we have in this area. And this is the critter that you have in Watershed's display just outside as well, the North American river otter. Okay, it's not the one in the previous slide, which was the sea otter, which we have in California as well, down in Monterey, right? But they've gone extinct in our area, the sea otter. We have river otters. We have river otters that actually go in the ocean around here as well. But they're still river otters, and that it's a type of one of the 13 species. Let me describe this one to you a little bit in its form and function. These whiskers, for a start, are all important. I often think of this critter very similar to a Labrador Retriever. Big blockhead, lots of whiskers involved and so on, and loves the water, right? Loves the water. These whiskers, when they're out like this, straight out, all of them are detecting movement in the water column. So when it's muddy water, they can still detect something if it's out there. And I don't think we know well enough just how far and how what, we need more research on those whiskers, but we know they detect movement, right? Okay. Here's the critter. Here's mom on the right with 2 pups. They live in a matriarchal system where mom and pup stay together for about a year, and then if it's a male pup, he leaves. If it's a female pup, she often stays with mom on the territory. Then the males go out and find each other and then travel together from female group to female group. It's called a matriarchal society. Here's a mom diving with the pup looking to where did she go? This Clock Lake. Here's the pup diving with the mom, learning, as it were, on what's appropriate to be chasing under there. Here's a big dog, male otter. See this big boy? Big muscle dog. This is a muscle dog. Look at those muscles. Look at those webbed feet on the back. And that tail, which is just as long as the body. And the tail can get flat and be used like a rudder. This way, this way, this way, this way. Really, that's how they can go so fast, is with the tail. And we often think of our otters, including the river otter, as highly sociable. And if you're lucky enough to see this kind of thing going on, look at the sand and how much they've been rolling around, and they're just biting each other, rolling and playing. This is playing. So wildlife biologists, animal behaviorists such as myself, have a definition of what play is in the animal kingdom, including humans. Play has a definition, something like they take turns being subordinate on the bottom, as it were. Who's on the top and who's on the bottom? They take turns. As soon as that happens, we're getting closer to actual reciprocal play. Yeah, that kind of thing. That's what's going on here with 3 of them. And this kind of thing happens in the water, it happens on land, and it's a real joy to watch. When that happens and they're rolling around in a big ball, I call it an otter knot. Just a knot of otters. Yeah. Let's look at this family. talk about personality. You can see it in their faces. And you can see it in their behavior in the wild. You can see it out here in the pen as well, in the exhibit. They have different personalities. Just like my 3 Labradors at home, they have personality. One's shyer than another, one's bolder, one's always got his nose in somewhere, and one's cautious. Same deal in the animal kingdom. So, how do we know so much about otters in this area? I came here 20 years ago and launched this study. It's called a citizen science study. I opened up a study to all citizens to participate in the North Coast. And I publicized it through these little signs and in Eco News newspaper, and here at the zoo, you're invited to participate on the interp boards here and so on, to send us your records when you see a wild otter. And students at HSU have for 20 years been typing them all in. And we have about 6,000 records from 20 years of citizens participating. And when you added it up, it's about 4,500 different people have participated in the project. And that's a lot of people investing in that project, as it were. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here and do a little audience participation. Okay, so I'd like you to think back to the last time or the first time you ever saw a wild river otter. If you have, last or the first, whichever was the most memorable or whatever, and then turn to somebody near you, behind you, and tell them about it. Go ahead, right now. smiling as they were telling people. I heard some adjectives used, and it all seemed to be positive and excitement.
Not my story.
We're dealing with a charismatic critter, I think, that people, somehow we connect with. Somehow. I don't know what it is. You could reflect on it yourself and try to put your finger on. But what I'm suggesting is that by running a citizen science project like this, where people would be asked to participate, that a sense of ownership could be built in what we have here on the North Coast, goes the idea. And the students reply and say, thank you very much, and remind every citizen that reports a wild sighting that with every encounter, citizens connect to river otter habitats, including healthy coastlines, wetlands, rivers, and watersheds, with the idea that perhaps the value that we hold in our clean, healthy watersheds might be owned better, and therefore we might be more willing to protect it. Goes the idea. Okay? But I wonder if it's really working. If this sort of idea is really working, really changing values. All right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about an investigation that I'm going to launch to see if values are indeed enhanced through a project like this. All right, it has to do with the starting point. In an environmental ethics lecture that I give to my students at HSU, there's something called the burden of proof. Now, what that's about, it has to do with values, what we value. If we value the environment, like this picture up here of a wetland where otters would live, and then a development of some sort, if we picture that environment, this natural environment, with just instrumental value, then the burden of proof lies with the conservationist to argue to stop the developer. Instrumental value, the definition is that nature has value for humans only. If, however, on this other side, if nature has value, both types of value, intrinsic value and intrinsic value is value in and of itself. If nature has value in and of itself and value to us, then the burden of proof lies over here. The developer has to argue before anything happens. And the conservationist can just sit back. I ask you to reflect about our own community, our own state, our own country, and say, where is the burden of proof today in 2019? Where does it lie in our community, for example? All right? So, this idea that a citizen science project might be able to influence, might shift this from one side to the, from here perhaps to here, I don't know if it's going to work, but we're trying. All right? Let's work on it. All right. So we're trying this in this study area in the North Coast. Okay, the study has been going on since 1999, 20 years. It focuses on Humboldt and Del Norte, otters in Humboldt and Del Norte. But what we were interested in is all the rivers that flow to the coastline and enters the ocean in Humboldt and Del Norte. All the rivers that come, you've heard of 6 rivers? Mm-hmm. Those 6 rivers plus some others that come to the coastline. Well, if you look at their watersheds upstream of all the rivers that come to the coastline of Humboldt and Delaware, it includes all these other counties surrounding us. Watersheds go beyond Humboldt and Delaware. So the study, from an Otters perspective, is the entire watershed. And we've chosen to study all the rivers and watersheds in this catchment. And it's been going on for 20 years, and folks have been sending in records from all these different locations, all these different river systems in this area. It started with a simple question. Do we have a healthy otter population in this area? And how could we possibly find out? Well, at the beginning of the study, 20 years ago, there was very little information to even try to address this. There was about 50 records in existence in this area on the books, on the national park books, on the state park books, on wildlife biologists in this area. There's only about 50 records. No idea how many otters we had or if it was a healthy population. So how do you collect it? So we started opening the gates and saying, send us your records. And now, 20 years later, there's 6,000 records that we're beginning to make heads or tails with. Here's one population parameter, as it were, that we can keep tabs on each year. How many young are produced per family? Right? And so, what's the litter size? And if in a healthy population, if there's a population that is suffering, you might predict that the litter size would go down. You'd start seeing it decline over time if it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. If the habitat was getting worse and worse and worse and worse, that kind of thing. So with this population parameter, we're able to say, hey, it's looking stable. The litter size of average of 2 pups per female is stable over this 15-year look. Okay, so that's one indication that we got a healthy population. How many do we actually have? How many otters do we actually have? Citizen science can't really get at that because it's haphazard records, right? We're just out and about and report. Okay. But we asked this question of Humboldt Bay itself in this catchment area. Over time, citizens were sending us records from all these different areas, Humboldt Bay Refuge, up here at King Salmon, over here, along the Elk River, that nice trail there, and over here on the boardwalks here. Of course, look at Arcata Marsh, right? Arcata Marsh. Are there more otters there, or is it just more people? Right? That kind of thing. Or along here, the kayakers going out here, along the Mad, of course, right there at Tai City, where, along the Mad, here's the bridge, walking across Hammond Trail, and then up here at the Little River, Moonstone, of course. All right, but how many do we actually have? So what I thought, my best estimate, based on citizen records, the largest count in any one year, that kind of thing, I thought we have 24 otters in this area, which is not too bad, 24. 24 top predators in this system. It's like saying 24 lions in a mountain system or something, but in a wetlands and a coast, it's like 24 top predators in this kind of habitat. All right, so that's pretty cool. So we asked, with Michaela Zickman's Gunther's help and her student, we started collecting scat, otter scat. And every time an otter has a scat, it's eating fish and whatnot and things with sharp bones, and it's scraping the sides of the intestine. So it takes out some skin cells that you can then pick up in the scat and then search for otter skin cells in there and get otter DNA and then fingerprint unique individuals for each scat. And so we went to the known sites where scat were found. And it just so happens that otters in their world communicate through scent. Just like a dog goes up to a fire hydrant and it smells, they leave a deposit and then they smell. Ooh, who's been there? Really get into it. Ooh, who's really been there? And they extract information from each other's scat and urine and so on. All right, and they do this in the same places in their habitat. Those places are called latrines by biologists, right? Yeah. All right, so here's 9 latrines on the landscape that has been used for 20 years by this population of otters. And so Kristen got her little baggies out, and 3 days a week for 6 months, she went and collected fresh scat, brought it home to the lab, and extracted DNA. Here's a scat sample with fish scales in it and so on. So she brought it home and got DNA out and fingerprinted all this. Guess how many we got? We have 44 otters in the area, almost twice as many as I thought. And so that was pretty cool to be able to do in a smaller catchment of the study area, so that maybe, could I say that citizen science observers are seeing about half of what we see? At least in this area. That's what's going on in this smaller area. Okay. So at Moonstone Beach, you might have seen something like this, I don't know. Let's see if you can detect a mom and pups. Let's see if you can identify the different sizes of these and what they're eating.
Fish.
That. What's that? Dungeness crab. Right? They know what this is right around Christmas. Is that the mom? The big one? Up in front? Okay, mom's gonna come up here. There's a little one comes up. Could you see the difference?
Yeah.
Those pups are half the size of that mom. That head was half the size. So those are young pups. So that's what we're asking citizens to do, to find out how many pups are produced in each area. Here's pup calling. And they're swimming across the river now to the bank here. This is the sand bank going upstream beyond Moonstone, up the little river. And look, there's a little dance going on up top there, and the pup is watching. The pup's going to come up and do the same. That's the latrine. And they do the little dance to get it out. Right? Right? Wait, yeah. And so otter scientists know where these latrines are and can go find out who's been there and what they've been eating. So it's a wildlife biologist's dream to study wild animals. Now, when students come to HSU as 17, 18-year-olds, and the bird, people who love birds, show them how to use binoculars and identify the birds as they fly. And then the mammal kids come in and say, oh, I only like mammals. Where are they? Where are they? Hey, there's something left by a mammal. shitty job, but somebody's got to do it. Sorry. Okay, so that's what we tell them, and they have to learn how to identify all the different scat of all the different mammals and tracks. So this citizen science project that we're asking you guys to participate in, we have about just less than 500,000 people in this study area potentially contributing. How can we reach more of these folks to participate? I ask myself sometimes. And some other projects heard about our project down south in all these other counties. 2 more citizen science projects have been launched in the San Francisco area and Sacramento area. And now 10 million people down there are potentially looking for otters too. Otters in San Francisco Bay area were once extinct, and they have only recently, in the last 10 years, started to be detected again. So coming down from the north, repopulating the bay as the bay is getting cleaner and cleaner. So all those citizens, 10 million perhaps, and in our area are exploring, learning, and recording observations, perhaps enhancing our values toward the environment and so on. But I asked myself after 20 years, how can we do this kind of thing better? How can we do this even better, reach more people and enhance values even more? And then, as I reflected, I had an otter idea. You get it?
Yeah.
All right. And it is, how about if we merge citizen arts with citizen science? All right, so that's what I'm going to tell you about. It came in, we started playing with, has anyone been to the All Species Parade in Arcata,
Yeah.
North Pound Country Fair, where everyone dresses up as a different animal and it parades around the plaza? And here's my students and I, here's me, and this one here's this is the wildlife professor, this is the art professor, and we started merging art and science and walk around the plaza with the big banner, and if we hear somebody on the street saying, oh, I saw an otter, let me give them one of those little cards. So how can we do this better? After all, science and art are trying to do the same thing, trying to explain the world that we live in. We're doing it from different perspectives, perhaps, but we're trying to explain the best we can and share what we're seeing and interpret what we're seeing to everybody who will listen. And where we meet is we both share wonder of the world. Okay? So we could combine these two and perhaps make progress. After all, science is having a hard time in the public eye these days.
Yep.
And we're even having to hit the streets to march in support of science. Were you on this bridge? Here's me with some students from HSU. We were flying the banner called Natural History Science using our pizza box and marching on behalf of science. Natural history science. Okay. How can we do this better? I have another idea, right? Okay, so here it is. Introducing North Coast Otters Public Arts Initiative. All right. So I stumbled on this idea on vacation in England. I was on vacation in England 2 summers ago. It was on Dartmoor, in Dartmoor National Park. There's a park with a moorland, big hill, and rain falls and comes into these little creeks and creates rivers and flows into, there's a Dart River and another river on the other side, and otters over a different species of otter in England, the Eurasian otter, is endangered.
but they're making a comeback here in this national park, in these rivers. And so that community, we're celebrating this sort of idea. And came across this when we were having tea in a pub. We were in a room at the pub, having a cup of tea, and sitting in the corner, standing on the corner on a 4-foot-tall plinth, a 3-foot-tall otter was standing upright, and it was painted in flowers. It looked like it was coming up out of a wetland in bloom, and its head was sticking above the flowers, sort of. And it was so cool when we were drinking our tea, and during the tea, 35 people came in and got selfies with this otter. And picked up a little guidebook, like this one. And I brought a couple back, and it said, the More Otter Trail, how many can you find? And there's a little free guidebook on the plinth, and it said, it challenged you to go find all 100 of these that were at different pubs. Who's not to like that? So let's pass these around. And there was a guidebook, there was maps, there was a website. I'm gonna describe it to you here. So here's where it is. Here's England. It's down in the south. Here's Dartmoor National Park. In Devon is the county. And there were 100 otters surrounding the national park and all the towns and villages. And here's my wife Jilly standing next to one in a visitor center. And here's another one here, another one here. And they're online. You can click each of these otter heads to find out the name of the place to go visit and the address to go find them. All 100. It was located in 22 towns in the area where 30,000 people lived, where 3 million tourists came every summer. We have 2 million coming through our area, by the way. And they had 100 artists, local artists, paint these in their different styles. Here's the guidebook up close. You can flip pages to find out where they are. You can keep track of how many you see, which ones you see. Write the code down, tear this piece of paper out, send it in, and win a prize. Cream tea for 4, 1 night family dinner, 2 nights stay at the bed and breakfast, you know, that kind of stuff, right? And if you get 20 and take it to the visitor center or to the zoo, for example, and show that you have 20, you can get your otter spotter badge. All right, so that kind of thing. And then each of these otters were sponsored by local businesses. And it was just so much fun. So we landed in Dartmoor National Park planning to have a week vacation in this area. We didn't know anything about the otter thing going on. And here's Jilly with that first otter with the flowers. And here's me with my favorite one. This one was called Otter Banksy. This one was called
Right there with the bee.
so we both got in that one. And this one was outside in the rain, being protected. This one was actually locked in the pub. The pub wasn't open, so we used our binoculars. This one was near a local prison. And it was a whole photo op thing with the police, the bobbies, the police were involved. They found this otter on the street, brought it back in, you know, this kind of thing. There you go. It's on the TV. Anyway, here's one in another pub with a computer armor on. Here's one at another pub just outside. another one at another pub just outside. Here's one inside a pub. And so they're on these 4-foot tall stands that you can I can lean on, sort of thing, with a slot to give little donations, and a sign like this, where you were encouraged to bid for this otter on the website.
My God.
They auctioned them off at the end of the summer.
Whoa.
Okay. And here's one underwater scene.
Oh my God.
Here's another one. This one's called Colin the Rescue Otter. And here's the auction site. Yes.
Quick question, was there a different artist for each otter?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. 100 different artists. Yeah, that was what was so cool. That so many people were participating. And so you get on, and I did. I got on and tried it, and bid in pounds, right? And I bid on Otter Banksy, my favorite, and I just watched the price go up beyond. Let it go. All right, and then 30 of the 100 were sold in person, in auction, at a place like at a very old auction site. It looks just like Antiques Roadshow, don't you think? And it was before that day. We were back here on the 30th of September, and I had decided, right, we're going to do this here in the North Coast, and I'm going to buy an otter. So I looked for some grant money and whatnot, pulled things together, and found enough money, and then said, what's my limit, and they planned. And I was talking to this woman. It was 7 in the morning here, and it was 4 in the afternoon there or something, and she was bidding for me. Like this. And I'm going to show you what I won in a moment.
Oh, you're teased.
The one that got sold for the most money, I'm going to show you right now. Here it is. And this one was called Elementary, my dear. And it sold for $7,000. Yeah, I converted it.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Is it?
All right, and so there were 100 of these, right? So they were raising money for the national park, for projects for the national park. All right, and so you might be thinking, oh, this is just like such and such project in a town that you know, like a cow project. Grants Pass did this with bears 20 years ago, and they still have bears going on. Koalas down south, and pandas in DC, cows in Chicago, hearts in San Fran has hearts too, yeah. Anyway, so even here on the North Coast, there's cigarette boxes at Friends of the Dunes that get sold every year. But we are going to do otters. We're going to bring 100 otters to this landscape, and we're going to ask participants, galleries, zoos, and visitor centers, and resorts, and wildlife, can you think of where it would be cool to have an otter? And what they did in England, we're going to do the same. It's going to be all summer long, from June to the end of September. So you have a whole summer to go exploring for all 100, or at least 20, to get your otter badge, or that kind of thing. And all right, so guess what? This place is going to have an otter. They've just told us they're going to be a partner with this project. We're going to have one of these artsy otters on a stand just outside there, where folks can come from all over. There's going to be thousands more visitors just looking for otters. And then there'll be a little encouragement, and come inside and see some real ones, that kind of thing. So, but everyone will have access, free access to the Otter art, and encouraged to come inside, as it were. Yeah. So I'm very pleased that the zoo is going to be a partner on this project, and they're also talking with me about helping with the Otter Junior Scientist project we're going to be running as well. Okay. Can you think where to put these? Well, I've already heard from all these people, yes, please sign me up. Yes, we want to do this. And money's coming in, sponsorships are coming in. Everyone's loving this idea because it's a celebration. And the slogan for the project is North Coast Otters, a public arts initiative, merging citizen science with citizen art, and then promoting clean water, healthy habitats where we live and play. So that's what we're trying to promote. And perhaps more people will participate in the citizen science project down the road as well, and values toward the environment, toward art, culture, ourselves, our children, our animals, our clean water. Everything might just sort of be elevated. Guess what? We need to study this to see if it's going to happen. It just happens to be a university nearby with loads of students looking for projects. And there will be at least 2 master's students doing surveys and whatnot before, during, and after to see if values are indeed changing when you merge art with science. Interesting idea, we'll see, it's an experiment. Good thing it's going to be fun. It's just going to be fun, so it's not like work or anything, it's fun, right? And everyone can enjoy and participate. So what do you think? What do you think?
Excellent.
Promoting clean water, healthy habitats. So think of one word that would describe what you're thinking, one adjective, what you're thinking, and turn back to that person right now and tell them that one word. Try, it's a challenge, one word.
Joyful.
Tell one word to everyone, to your partner.
What's your celebration?
Okay, that's more than one. All right, so very good.
Do you have all the artists already?
No, we don't.
You don't?
We're looking. Yeah. All right, so now comes my pitch to you on how to join us in this project. What do we need to make this happen? All right? So here comes the. But first, here's what it looks like. You get a blank canvas. The artist gets a blank canvas. It's made out of resin. It's hollow. It weighs 10 pounds. It's made out of resin with fiberglass sheets holding these in place. We're going to use the exact same model. Our English artists are going to donate it to us. And we only have to pay to have them made, sort of thing. And then this artist painted a scene of Dartmoor and the birds and the flowers on the moor. Can you imagine doing that here? At Moonstone, or at Red Creek, or up a watershed, down a watershed, on a coast. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fun, right? Do you think we can do it? Just look at this. Look at this sweatshirt. Watch. Do you think we can do it? Here comes the answer. Yes, we can. Okay. So the artists are going to be given some kind of guidance. Here's the goal of this project. We have 4 sort of themes to try to achieve. We're going to try to celebrate clean water and healthy habitats. How would an artist portray that? Celebration. We're going to enjoy our wild places. How would an artist portray that? We're going to embrace what we have here, our local vibe, culture, and tradition. And we're gonna definitely try to connect science and ways of learning. All right, so we're gonna have quite a variety, right, under these themes. Lynn Risling, a local native artist, is joining me with trying to promote this idea, where we're going to rest this whole project on a foundation of original symbols and art that was here first. And then we're going to rest as sort of the foundation for the whole project, celebrating our local native tribes and the story about the otter at each watershed of the old stories. We're going to take this to the schools. We're going to have Otter Art and Eco Days at the schools in the spring prior to the summer. We're talking about not this coming summer 19, but 20, when this is going to happen. But in the spring prior to, so spring 20, about a year from now, we're going to have mini otters, paper mache otters and so on, being painted, and watershed scenes being created and so on, and having different projects in the schools. And then during the summer, we're going to have an Otter G for Scientists project where kids of any age, including you kids, us kids, to do a little science project, discovering what otters need. All right, so this Otter Junior Ranger project will be so much fun. We're going to have an app, phone app, that each one can be scanned in, sort of thing, and a little project pops up, or we'll have a little guidebook, old style, and we're going to have a web page that's going to support it. And we're going to have the same sort of competition. How many can you find? We're going to have some incentives. How many can you do on foot, or public transport, or EV car, or whatever, or on your bike, and then we'll have different prizes, that kind of thing. Okay. And everyone can win a badge. A student even made this and said, we ought to have mini otters after each one, sort of thing. And wouldn't that be fun? But I said, well, only if we can make them look pretty and sustainable, we'll have to see. Yeah? So she made this out of dough, baked it, and then painted it. That's one. How many do we need? 10,000? Yeah.
Where does that one come from, that beautiful one?
The green one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll show it to you later. All right, so I'm also going to offer an invitation to anyone out here in the audience who might be more inclined to theater, film, and dance. Because we're going to celebrate this all year long. It's in the year of 2020, the summer of 2020. So how about a play? I'm going to approach Del Arte. How about a dance? I'm going to approach the dance theater company at HSU. So there are about 12 to 15 professors talking with their students. Let's design this for the Otter Project. Let's design this for the Otter Project. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to just celebrate. So the benefits, everyone will benefit. Everyone is going to learn about art, nature, and science. Businesses who have one of these, they're going, I think this is going to be a huge benefit for them. It's sheer joy of seeing people happy and whatnot, and building our ownership and community in our community, and the critters themselves, and of course clean water. And we're going to establish conservation partners where the proceeds of this project can come back to. So HSU is going to raise the money to create internship opportunities with all these partners. And I counted them up on all the river watersheds. There's 35 NGOs, 35 nonprofits, that might be eligible already, and half of them already welcome internship opportunities. So we'll just give them some money to promote clean water, healthy habitats, build community for otters, for people, for us, where we live and play. So we're not going to take any money away. We're going to give it back, as it were, hopefully. And we're going to study otters. So can you imagine having 100 otters in the same room and have an exhibit? It's going to be so much fun. We're going to do it. Okay. So here's how you can participate. All right? So people are jumping in and joining us. So each otter is being supported. So it costs money to buy it, costs money to build the stand. We're going to contribute $150 to paint and brushes to each artist. A little stipend. So that artists aren't going to do it for free. So that's going to cost $750 for each otter. So we're asking for folks to chip in to sponsor an artist and their canvas and the paint and whatnot. All right? And then when a host hosts, has it in their shop or their pub or their gallery with thousands more people coming to see, we're going to ask them for a contribution of $500. Okay? All right, and some folks are saying, I want to host, I want to sponsor, and so I'll give you both of this. And then other folks are jumping in and saying, I want to help you fund the whole thing. We're calling them patrons at $500,000. And this group said, yes, please, sign me up. I'll be a patron, I'll be a host and a sponsor for one otter. And then we created a new category. We called it the adoption option. Somebody that comes in at that level can have their otter at the end, forevermore. And it won't be auctioned off. They are actually buying it for $5,000. And that is what they did in England. They had an adoption auction set, sort of to raise the price for all the others, as it were. Not many got beyond that sort of thing, but anyway, so that's how they did it.
Is that annual or a one-time gift?
One time. This is a one-time project.
Sign you up.
Okay, and then we're accepting every gift as well, below that as well. All smaller, gratefully, and your name will be there in lights and so on. But and folks are generously offering in-kind support. Some woodworkers are offering to help me build the plinths, and so that's going to be so much help. I wanted to call all the smaller, less than 500 otter tracks and scat auction. But the PR people at HSE said, no, don't say that. Okay, so there we go. Hoping to have stakeholder ownership in our natural world. I think we'll have happy faces. This is from England. I'm hoping we're going to have all kinds of diverse looking faces having selfies in our community, enjoying this project. And now it's time to show you the one that I got. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, the unveiling. Okay, unveiling, here it comes. Ta-da! So this was painted by Maria Burns, and she named it A Decoration of Buntings. Those are sorrel buntings that are endangered birds up on Dartmoor. And Maria and I are now Facebook friends. And she educated me, the wildlife professor, about the term, a decoration of buntings. I've heard of a murder of crows, a flock of crows, a murder of crows. Apparently, when there's a flock of buntings, it's called a decoration of buntings. And that's in the literature. It has been for years and years, and I never knew. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so that is Bunty for short. Bunty. Yeah. And that was her vision for her otter to say to the world that we need to also think of the birds. So you're welcome to go get selfies.
Where is it in Venus?
That one's on tour, like this. Yeah, that one's on tour.
Very nice.
So this one's brought over shipped from England to help me put on this project. Okay, so very good, that's the end.
Well, I had asked the question. I assume hosting is just for the summer because you'll be auctioning them off
That's
after.
right, we're gonna do the auction too, yep, here,
So you get the otter at your business, but only for a few months or?
from June to the end of September.
Okay.
How are the artists chosen?
So, in a few months from now, in February or March, or in a couple months from now, we're gonna put out a massive call to all artists and a timeline to prepare your year, because in October this year, we're gonna ask all artists to apply. And then they're gonna send us a sketch, your vision. So you can think about it for a few months and then apply. And then I've joined a lot of art professors are helping me think about this, and the ink people in town are helping me think about this, and the North Coast Open Studios are helping me think about this. And so we're going to have some kind of selection going on, and then 100 will be chosen, and blank canvases will be delivered, or that kind of thing. Yes. Next question.
What if I know a couple of artists that used to live elsewhere in other states, but think they might be really interested?
Yeah.
Can I have, it
We're
doesn't
going to
matter
open on
where they live?
this. Some folks know the area. And
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Absolutely. Yes.
I noticed your map went up above California. How far above?
Yeah, the study area goes over the border into Oregon, because some of our otters that come down do that as well. So yeah, we're gonna include Curry and Josephine as well. Just over the border at least, yeah, that kind of thing. Yes.
Where should we look for the call for the artists, like where?
Put your email on this sign-in sheet, you'll definitely get hit up for it. And otherwise, it's gonna be in all the news and a big sort of push to solicit artists. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
You have a murder of crows, what
Yes.
do you call a gathering of otters?
A bevy of otters. I've also heard of a troop, but it's mostly bevy is what I've been hearing.
Is there some, a website?
Yes, the website is, ready? otterart.humble.edu. And that's the email address as well, otterart@humble.edu. And I have a few flyers up here for business owners to take away. If you're deciding if you want to come in at the patron $5,000 level, or just $750, or $500, all contributions are going to be gratefully received. And we're doing this sort of, we're asking 100 sponsors, and 100, that's 200 potential participants in all of their clientele. This is a community building project. It's just going to be so much fun, I think. Yeah.
Just wondering, is resin of plastic, what is it we have?
I don't know the answer. I don't think it's plastic. Any artists know the resin?
Fiberglass resin? Sounds like fiberglass resin.
Yeah, it's fiberglass sheets inside. I don't know that.
I was just wondering if it'd be possible to make
Yeah, so it'll be a lot heavier. And, yeah, we're going with a company that's been doing this for 20 years, with a good product that's not gonna, yeah, that kind of thing. That's been a big choice that we've gone through, yeah.
Sponsorship.
Yes.
Do the sponsors have you had talked about being able to keep the, otter, rather than have it auctioned off?
The adopters do for a big price, thousands.
Like,
5,000.
that's, okay, that's the 5,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the adopters.
I think